Hey, and welcome to Witchcrafty. In today's project, I wanted to show you how to make a Minecraft cake plush, seeing as there's been a sudden burst in activity on the game on YouTube. As usual, I've added a link in the description to a free downloadable pattern for my DeviantArt to save you the hassle of drafting it, and because everyone deserves to have a Minecraft cake in their home. So let's get into it. For the construction, you'll need toy stuffing, red, white, and brown material. I'm using felt as it holds its shape pretty firmly like the box in the game, and it's cheap. You'll need thread that matches the material we're using, a sewing needle or machine, you'll need scissors, pins, a fabric marker or a pen to trace onto the material, and a printer. Before we begin, I just want to clarify a few things if you're completely new to making plushies. On the pattern, keep in mind that the little box indicates you'll need to leave seam allowance. This just means you'll need to leave a 1 to 2 cm gap around the tracing of each shape whilst cutting it out to prevent the raw edges from showing. Also, the numbers indicate how many you will need to cut out of each shape. All of the sewing techniques I mentioned in the video will have tutorials linked down below to help you out. Great, so now that's out of the way, we can get started. The very first thing you'll need to do is to print off the pattern and cut it out. Then we can begin with the colour order of each of the shapes. In the brown fabric, you'll need to trace 1 of the large square shape and 4 of the rectangular shapes. In the white fabric, you'll need to trace the other large square shape and 4 of the jagged edge rectangular shape. And lastly, in the red fabric, you'll need no seam allowance and 4 of the medium-sized squares and 6 of the small squares. Before cutting it out, seam allowance on the white fabric does not need to go around the jagged edge as there's nothing that we need to cover. However, it does need to have seam allowance on the straight lines of the shape. We then just need to cut it all out. Once we have all of our pieces, we can begin the assembly process. Using pins and a reference image, place the red squares on the white large square as best as you can to match the reference image of the cake and pin them in place. We then just need to use matching thread and small, neat running stitch along the edge of the red squares until we've sewn them all on. This process can take a while, but it's the most important part in keeping tidy as it's the part you're going to look at the most. Once you have finally sewn it all on, we can use a running stitch to sew on the jagged shape or the icing onto the rectangular square sides. When we're doing this, we're only going to go along the jagged line with matching thread and we're just going to leave the straight edges. It should now be beginning to really look like the cake from Minecraft. We then just need to assemble the whole thing together. To do this with ease, we just need to put all of the tracing on the outside and sew along the lines. We then need to join all of the sides onto the white large square first, using white thread to blend in with the material. Try your best while doing this to line up each of the edges to create a seamless effect between the jagged squares to replicate the look of the cake in the game. After that, we just need to join up all of the sides, keeping in mind we're aiming to blend the thread as much as possible. So use white thread up until you reach the end of the jagged shape, and then switch over to brown thread. Once we've finally completed the sides, we can attach the brown large square to the bottom. Just remember to put the tracing on the outside and sew along the line. Before you reach the end of the line, leave enough space to flip it inside out and stuff it with the toy stuffing, keeping the needle out and in sight. We then just need to use an invisible stitch or a ladder stitch to conceal the open end. Just to let you know, I also tidied up a few of my corners afterwards with an invisible stitch, as lining up the sides was tricky and it was 6 AM by the time I'd finished drafting and filming this, so my stitches were lacking enough strength to hold. So if you encounter the same problem, it's a fairly easy fix. And there you have it, your very own Minecraft cake. Let me know if you tried making one and if you enjoyed the video down below. Leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more nerdy creations, and thank you for watching. Disclaimer, I'm not responsible for any person that tries to eat the plush cake. Bye!